Alright, what's up guys? I'm very excited about this deck profile today. We are doing Sacred Beast. It's a fresh, brand new structure deck. I've been waiting for it to come out for quite a while. Very excited about it. But basically, yes, these Sacred Beasts are very good. I am not using Uriah in this particular version. If you would like to see a Uriah deck, please let me know in the comments. Let me know, that you want to see this pure Uriah deck, because I actually think the Uriah trap is really good, but unfortunately it just doesn't fit in with all of the other Sacred Beasts. So I think this deck is actually very competitive, though, the one I'm about to show you, because it's very cheap and it's very competitive. It only has one expensive card, but the majority of the deck is like, if you spend $30, you have a pretty competitive deck. It's almost like Monarchs. But we're playing one copy of Raphael, Lord of the Phantasms. You can summon this card by tributing any 3 monsters. You usually won't be summoning this. You'll usually use its quick effect, which is in the hand, which is you can discard this card and then you can target a Uriah, and then that Uriah has double its attack, which makes the Uriah 8,000, and usually you can just win off of that. Also, if this card is in the graveyard, you could tribute a monster and add it back to your hand, so it's almost like a hand trap that's recurable. It's like Honest before the deck, but it's very, very, very good for the deck. It's very good for Uriah. We played 2 copies of Uriah, Lord of the Phantasms. This card basically, during your opponent's turn, if your opponent normal summons, you get to special summon a token, and then you can tribute a monster, and then this card gains attack equal to that monster's attack, which again, that's a pretty useful effect, I suppose. You're trying to get as much damage on board as possible. Then this card, to summon it, you basically have to tribute 3 fiends. Then we played 2 copies of Hamon, Lord of Striking Thunder. This card, you have to tribute 3 spells on the field in order to special summon it, and then every time when it destroys an opponent's monster, it inflicts 1,000 life points, which is, somewhat, it's okay. And then when this card is the only monster that can be targeted for an attack, which is again pretty useful. Next we play 3 copies, but of course this card you need to play, even though it used to be one of the worst Sacred Beasts. Like Uriah was always the best, but it's really good because of Cerulean Skyfire. It's a new support card, basically lets you negate spell and traps, and it works around Hamon, so you have to have Hamon. But next we play 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. This card is so good. This is one of the new support cards. When it's normal summoned, you can add a Uriah, or or basically any of the Sacred Beasts, or a monster that specifically lists a Sacred Beast in the text, or a card that lists one of the Sacred Beasts in the text. So like Fallen Paradise, or Spirit Gates, or the Cerulean Skyfire, or the Trap card. But you can basically search the entire archetype with this on normal summon. Secondly, this card gives you an extra normal summon of a 0 attack Fiend. 0 attack, 0 defense Fiend, which is all of the summoning beasts. So it's very, very good for the decks. Next we play 3 copies of Chaos Summoning Beast. This card is absolutely sick. It's really, really good. I'm very happy with it. Basically, you can tribute this card and special summon any Sacred Beast from your hand, ignoring summoning conditions. So it's very, very good for that. Second effect is that you can banish this from the graveyard in order to search a copy of Fallen Paradise, which is, of course, the field spell. Absolutely disgusting field spell. I love this field spell. It gives them targeting protection. It turns every monster you have into a Chaos Max Dragon, and it allows you to draw 2 cards. Very, very good. So we got that. Then we play 3 copies of Dark Summoning Beast. This card, if you tribute this card on the field, it is a level 5, but you get extra normal summons and stuff. If you tribute this card, you can special summon any of the Sacred Beasts from your deck, ignoring summoning conditions. Secondly, you can banish this card from the graveyard in order to add any of the Sacred Beasts to your hand. So this is one of the classic summoning beasts, but the other 2 are brand new. They actually came out with another one, but it stops battle, which it's not very good. It's in the structure deck. I wouldn't recommend using that. This is the only controversial card. Now this is kind of expensive, but it is a tech choice. You can easily replace this with something else. You can replace this Pot of Desires if you wanted to. But basically this card does help the deck. Magician's Soul, basically you can special summon it just by sending a level 6 spellcaster to your graveyard, and then you can special summon this card for free. But the effect that we are using on this card is that you can send spell and trap cards from your hand or face up on your side of the field to the graveyard, and then draw that number up to 2. So like, let's say you have 2 dead spells or traps, you have multiple copies of, like, let's say you have multiple copies of the opening gates in your opening hand, or Fallen Paradise, or maybe you have a dead copy of Super Poly or something, you can just send them to grave and then draw that many cards. So it's very, very good, because you get a lot of advantage in this deck by searching a lot of spawn trap cards, and sometimes they're dead, like they don't do anything in your hand. And this card basically allows you to send them to the graveyard and draw free stuff. It's really, really useful for that. So I certainly recommend playing it. Then we play one copy of Apprentice Illusion Magician. This is what we will be sending to the graveyard, basically. We send this to the graveyard with the Magician Soul to summon it for free. But, you know, most of the time you want to summon the Magician Soul. Next, the spells. We play 3 copies of Fallen Paradise. Fallen Paradise is a very good card. Fallen Paradise allows you, basically all of your Sacred Beasts cannot be targeted or destroyed, which makes them very, very difficult to deal with for quite a bit of decks. Because you have to remember, they are big as hell. They really are. I mean, if you look at them, they're all 4,000 attack. They're huge. So it's very difficult to summon a monster that can destroy them. And on top of that, you're playing various other floodgates, so it makes it very difficult to play through. But its really crazy effect is that if you control a Sacred Beast, you can draw 2 cards. And that's it. That's just a plain text. If you control a Sacred Beast, draw 2 cards. I absolutely love that text. I almost can't believe it's on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. But yeah, if you... Like, it really is crazy. Like, all you have to do is just control a Sacred Beast, draw 2 cards. I love that. It's like Pot of Greed in the middle of your turn for no reason. Then we play 2 copies, or 3 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. Basically, when this card is activated, you can add any of the Sacred Beast monsters, or a monster that lists a Sacred Beast in its name. Automatically good. It's a lot like that other Dark Summoning Beast, and you can search that other Dark Summoning Beast with this. But on top of that, once per turn you can discard a card and then special summon a level 1 fiend. No, not a level 1 fiend, but a fiend monster with 0 attack defense from your graveyard. And then on top of that, you can, during your turn, if you control level 10 monster, which all of the Sacred Beasts are, you can actually add a continuous spell, any continuous spell in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! From your graveyard back to your hand, which is kind of crazy. Most of the time you'll be adding another Gates or a Cerulean Skyfire, because you don't want to play too much stuff that doesn't do anything in your deck. But yeah, definitely, this card's insane. Like, all 3 effects are good. If the card had any of the 3 effects, it'd be played in the deck, but it has 3 really good effects. Next we play a copy of Cerulean Skyfire. This card is insane again. If you need a special summon a Haman, you can use set cards, which that effect's kind of dumb, because, like, you can activate the spell, so it doesn't matter. But outside of that, this card basically allows you to, if your opponent activates a spell and trap, and you control a Haman, you can just change the Haman to defense mode and then negate that effect. And on top of that, it's actually pretty good to put a Haman in defense mode, because now they have to attack a huge defense position monster. You're not losing anything. And then if a Sacred Beast goes to the graveyard, for the rest of the turn you take no battle damage, which is super awesome, because it buys you a turn. And like I said, you are just... This deck really slows down your opponent. It's actually tough to play with. Once you set everything up, it's actually kind of tough to play through this deck. Next we play 3 Allure of Darkness, a card that should have been in the structure deck, but it was not. But yeah, this card is very good. You play virtually all dark monsters. You play a lot of dark monsters, so free draw card. You can't play Pot of Extravagance, unfortunately, because the field spell helps you draw, so it would actually conflict, so that's why you play the Allure. We play 1 copy of 1 for 1. That's the small summoning beast. The small summoning beast, the chaos summoning beast, is actually one of the best cards in the deck. He's really, really good, because he lets you, he's basically, if you summon him off of 1 for 1, I mean, like, or any reason, I mean, he lets you special summon from the hand, and then on top of that, he lets you add Fallen Paradise, and Fallen Paradise will eventually get you 2 free cards. So it's too good to not play, I gotta say. So yeah, definitely a 1 for 1, and then on top of that, you can also summon the Magician's Soul and then draw cards if you have dead spells. We play 1 copy of Instant Fusion. We can afford to play Instant Fusion because our extra deck is irrelevant. You almost never summon, you almost never use the extra deck with this deck. This deck is a lot like Toons in that the extra deck, you actually do not want to go into your extra deck. You don't want to summon Link monsters and utility monsters, because the issue is when you summon those Link monsters, you are actually getting rid of what you want to keep on the field, which is the Sacred Beast. You don't want to get rid of them. You want to keep them there, because all of your spell and monster cards rely on having the Sacred Beasts on the field, so you definitely do not want to get rid of them for like a Borlo Dragon or something like that, unless you're going for game. So that's why, you know, we can afford to play the Instant Fusion. Play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. It's very good against a lot of decks in the meta. You need to play it. In this deck, we can afford, again, we can afford the space, so we're playing it. 3 copies of Awakening of the Sacred Beasts. This is another card, brand new card. It is a brand new continuous trap. It's very good in the Uriah deck. It's also very good here. So it has 3 incredible effects. It depends on how many Sacred Beasts you control on your side of the field with different names. We only have 2 in the deck, so we will only be able to use the first 2 effects. The third effect, again, is very good. If you can manage to squeeze a Uriah into this deck, you know, by all means, do whatever you have to do. But from what I could see, I can only ever get 2. But the first effect is if you control 1 Sacred Beast, each time your opponent normal or special summons, you gain life points equal to the attack of that monster, which is absolutely insane, because sometimes you will activate that and your opponent will just start summoning and summoning and summoning and summoning, and you remember your monsters are all protected from targeting and everything of that sort, so they're actually kind of difficult to get rid of. And as your opponent summons and summons and summons, sometimes you can accrue 20,000 life points, and then it takes a while for them to kill you. By the time they work up the strength to kill you, you actually screw them over and just kind of destroy them. Next we play the next effect is that you can negate all monster effects that your opponent basically you can. The second one is if you control 2 Sacred Beasts, you negate all monsters that your opponent controls. So in their hand, in their graveyard, on their field, everywhere, everything is negated. It's like better than Skill Drain. It's like Inspector Border. Everything is negated, so they have to get rid of this. It's actually really good for that. Next we play 3 copies of Summon Limit. This card basically stops your opponent from special summoning too much, and 1 copy of Skill Drain because it's very good overall. Now let's go on to the extra deck. Like I said, the extra deck doesn't matter all that much, but we'll just go through it really quick. We play some utility cards. This card, basically 2 level 10s, you burn them for 2,000. You just make this when you're finishing the game. This one is unaffected by card effects. We play some utility links like Cerberus, Phoenix, Borreload, and Linkuriboh. These are only when you're going for game. Then we play Starving Venom. These are the Super Poly targets. We play Starving Venom, Borreload. This is the 3-headed dark monster. Basically, you get rid of 3 dark monsters to make it with Super Poly. Starving Venom again, I guess. This is for Eldritch and zombie decks. Nether Soul Dragon, World Chalice, Guard Dragon. This is if they summon a lot of Link monsters. This is for Salamangreats. These are your Super Poly targets. Millennium Eyes Restrict will protect you from hand traps, and Thousand Eyes Restrict will steal a monster. But that is basically it. These are just utility cards. You don't actually have to play any of these. You can literally play with no extra deck and you will be completely fine, because this deck does not need an extra deck. But that is it. Like I said, if you want to see that pure Uriah deck, let me know. I'll get a build worked out. But thank you for watching and have a terrific day, guys.